Let me take a guess. You probably dreamed of having your own crypto yield farm where users can stake their funds and earn a ton of money, and you can have an amazing community and be a great developer and rule the crypto. Oh, sorry. I got a little carried away there. But in the end, I'm pretty sure you wanted your own crypto farm, right? You're not the only one because everyone has wanted a crypto farm before, me included. So in this video, I'm going to go over Jetfuel.Finance CEO Miro's advice on what it takes to have rock-solid tokenomics for your cryptocurrency yield farm. So if you're interested in yield farms at all, let's dive in together. Now, how do you exactly ensure your project doesn't suck? Well, first of all, there has never been a really better time to be a developer or an entrepreneur in the DeFi sector. Well, there are three major factors to consider when launching your DeFi project. The first is tokenomics, the second, hype cycles and community building, and the third, security. So let's explore each of these categories. Now, before we dive in, guys, this is obligatory, but it is important because I am not a financial advisor, and especially I'm not your financial advisor. So if you want some financial advice, go out and find someone in the richest neighborhood who can actually give you some nice financial advice and sit you down for some financial planning. Now on to tokenomics. Tokenomics is a word commonly used by the crypto space when talking about the economics of a token project. It essentially means how the project is structured to deliver tokens to the project's participants, development team, advisors, marketing funds, and other uses as determined by the roadmap and documentation. Investors will ask you repeatedly for a description of your tokenomics, so it's best to keep it short, simple, and easy to understand. You got to keep in mind because people in DeFi are from all over the world, like the United States, Argentina, and Malaysia. So if a potential investor has a hard time grasping the concepts and language that you're using, you're likely to lose that investor since they won't understand how the project works. So let's dive into the structure of tokenomics, starting with team and developer allocation. So as you may know, some projects tout themselves as giving zero allocation to the developer team. They think it's a really amazing idea. However, the only time this is really ever feasible is when there's a massive benefactor supporting the project, like a rich Mark Cuban. A prime example of this is Venus Protocol, which was previously managed by Swipe, who is now owned by Binance. So unless you're incredibly rich, running a project can be prohibitively expensive, and developers will need funds in order to sustain the project. Developers should aim to allocate 14 to 40% of the tokens for treasury, team, and marketing expenses. Allocating less than 10% of tokens for the team may actually have a detrimental impact on the longevity of the project, unless the team has a solid plan to generate revenue to sustain the project. The first project that Miro, the CEO of Jetfuel, launched was Jetfuel.Finance, with their tokens, Fuel, and Jets. They allocated only 2.5% of their total tokens for the team, minted over the course of 6 months. The low levels of tokens given to the team made it very difficult to plan and fund operations since the treasury was so low. Looking back, they should have allocated 15% to the dev team. Luckily, Jetfuel.Finance had solid revenue-generating products developed. They established a strong staking program with a Jets token and implemented a 2.5% withdrawal fee that went directly to the dev wallet. They also built very strong yield optimization programs with auto-compounding vaults. The withdrawal fees and performance fees from the vaults allowed the Jetfuel treasury to grow rapidly and fund the project for the long term. Next, we have yield farming. Of course, yield farming is an extremely important part of the tokenomics. The best performing tokens need to start with 70% of the emissions going to the native tokens liquidity and staking. The other 30% or less can be distributed to non-native tokens pairs and staking. Keep in mind that by distributing tokens to non-native pools, these pools are earning the token essentially for free, meaning the investors don't need to have any exposure to the native token to earn it. This may cause the investors to dump the tokens faster. For example, when the Jetfuel team they had 65% of fuel emissions going to the Fuel BNB pair. After they changed it to 85% of fuel emissions to Fuel BNB, the Jets token price began to rise rapidly. Now next up we have a native incentive. Investors need a reason to hold a native token, right? They're not just going to hold it for anything. So popular methods of providing value to native token investors is to provide governance rights to the token, profit revenue share, exclusive earning potential with other token pools, exclusive memberships to other features, and much more. Strong developers will always look at their token and ask themselves, would I buy or hold this? If the answer is no, they get back to the drawing board and revamp the tokenomics to ensure value is delivered to their token holders appropriately. Now we have hype cycles and community development. Cryptocurrencies live and die by hype cycles. A hype cycle essentially is the typical explosion of activity at the project's launch with a dizzying surge of volume, pushing the token to incredible heights due to FOMO and low liquidity. Here, the Telegram groups and Twitter chats are filled with moon memes, and the PooCoin page is DDoSing due to the number of refreshes of people price checking. After the early investors have made a lot of money on their original investments, they begin to dump and the price comes crashing down. So as the price crashes, investors quickly pull liquidity out and sell, exasperating the downfall due to lower levels of liquidity. Prices in the beginning of a project can even drop so fast you wouldn't even believe. Sometimes a 90% drawdown in just a few hours can happen, so you've got to plan for that accordingly. Now here is the critical point. This is the point where the strong survive and build, or the weak delete the Telegram accounts and perish into the darkness of their mom's basements. If you can survive the dip and mitigate and control the damage, FUD, or why is the price dumping questions, your investors will start to buy back in, leveling out the prices and bringing confidence back to the project. A price discussion channel is critical at this point, so the main Telegram isn't flooded with negative price talk every single time your price drops just a few percentage points. Now, at this point is where your marketing budget needs to go into full effect. Once you lose the initial hype of the launch, many investors will seek to move on to the next hot token where they can ride the wave up in hopes for cashing out in easy profits. You'll need to hold the attention of these investors to ensure your project has the investor base to increase prices and liquidity. So what do? You should hit Twitter, Reddit, Discord, Medium with massive amounts of quality content, funny memes, and insightful commentary. While engaging the community will become a full-time job, project developers will need to work their ass off to form partnerships with large and smaller projects and work to expand their holder counts. Now moving on to the community itself, the tokens community is one of the strongest intangible assets a developer can build. Treating the community well, listening to their feedback, and acting on their feedback goes a long way in the eyes of the community. Unhappy community members will dump the token and leave other projects, so always keep that in mind. Now, the last thing I want to touch on here is security. Security is the most important aspect of the project. Poorly designed code will result in a poor user experience, or worse, an exploit. An exploit can drain the contracts of the user's funds to a hacker or leave the user's funds locked and inaccessible. DeFi is built on smart contracts, so smart contracts are immutable once deployed, meaning they cannot be changed. So a developer must take extreme care when pushing the smart contracts to the public. The best projects will have their code audited and tested before it enters production. Deploying the project, then getting an audit serves no purpose except as a marketing gimmick. What happens if the deployed code has a vulnerability? The developer must pray the contract is not exploited, and if it's not exploited, then force the community to withdraw and redeposit to a new contract. This ultimately results in a very poor user experience and a lack of proper planning. In the case of Jetfuel, they take a security-first approach to their development. All their code is audited prior to deployment, and any pending issues are fixed before the community touches the smart contracts. That's why Jetfuel receives a low-risk rating from us here at RugDoc. So in summary, there are many ways to build a successful DeFi project. Top-tier developers will set up proper tokenomics, care about the community, and establish strong marketing relationships to ensure the smart contracts are production ready. So guys, I hope you learned a lot in this video about how to create a yield farm and what actually goes into creating yield farm, and even some tips you can take along the way if you ever decide to create your own farm. If you need any other tips or have any other questions on how to create your farm, please join our Telegram group over at RugDoc, where we have developers you can talk to, or even investors or your average crypto guy. You can bounce questions back and forth. As always, guys, stay safe in the DeFi space and have an amazing day.